Here. Hello, I want to welcome everyone to the Power of Our Story. And today we have our guest, Kerry Steuart. He is a United States Air Force veteran and is now a yoga instructor. And he's struggled with some PTSD and some chronic pain and has been able to navigate his way through that, which he'll share all about. So, Kerry, tell us about yourself. Welcome to our group.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share and absolutely connect with everybody. We really can't see our future connections, and I'm super excited to be able to connect with, this community on a different facet. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Well, it is our pleasure. So, and we're just excited about what you have to share. It sounds fascinating, and from what the friends on Angels 14 say, you are definitely loved. So we're excited to have you on our group too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm originally from Oklahoma. Uh, I've got I've been married for a long time. 30, trying to do the math in my head, it was 91, so I guess 31 years I've been married. So we have three amazing kids and three amazing grandkids. And two of the kids are in Colorado, and one of the kids are still in Kansas City. Um, and I would say that like I have a lineage. Go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. We have a lineage of serving our country. So every male on my father's and mother's side had served in the military at one point to another. And so I thought, I think it was my time to do it. So I signed up and I left and I went to Biloxi, Mississippi for training in electronic warfare. And then I ended up in Omaha. And then I went to the Gulf War quite a few times. And during this process, I started developing some elements. I absolutely loved my career. I did electronic warfare. I worked in reconnaissance, surveillance for the Rivet Joint Program. And then after that, I went to Korea and analyzed all the missions from Southwest Asia. And then I would do the briefing for the Pentagon that was delivered to the White House every day. And so that was really neat to just kind of decipher everything that was going on from all the information and provide that, knowing that, hey, this is directly going to be on the president's desk, after I submit this. And then after that, I went and worked in test and development in Florida, which was, you know, full circle. So from the reconnaissance aspect now into test and development of all the informations from the signals and everything that we derived from the Rivet Joint Program, now we could implement through all the fighter aircraft. Um, but then I wasn't able to do my job. I would go on deployments and I would just get really, really sick. I would have migraines or I would throw up or I just was really weak or really lethargic and really tired. And then all of a sudden I would be fine. It was just kind of this, bipolar effect of like what's going on with me physically. And so I went to the doctor and they basically said, you have 45 days until you get out. And most people would be scared. I mean, part of me was, in a sense, confused because I planned on spending 20 years in the military. I planned on staying in 20 years and then once I was over, then retire and figure out what to do at that point. So, kind of my mission, my dreams, my visions, and my goals were pulled out, and I said, "Well, I've got to find another direction." And ironically, I got into restaurant. I did restaurant management, and then I ended up owning a restaurant in Kansas City, and then I just got to the point where that was just too much physically. And there's a whole nother story to that, which would be another very long podcast, well over an hour, just to converse all the learning experience I had from that. But I got into cybersecurity. So I worked for the USDA, I worked for the Federal Reserve. I did a stint at Perceptive Software in a company called Aquila. And I just helped with integration of a lot of their IT infrastructure and network scanning, network vulnerability scanning, and all those kinds of concepts, and making it automated as well. Because I feel like the less human interaction within our IT infrastructure really offers an opportunity, for enhancement on everybody. And then I got to the point where I just was not doing well. And I would say that I was bankrupt mentally, physically, and spiritually. And my wife comes to me one day and she's like, I didn't sign up for this. And I thought that she meant she wanted a divorce, right? And I said, well, what do you really mean? And she's like, your life is just, you're not living the best version of yourself. We go to Target and you have an anxiety or a panic attack and you're freaking out in Target, or you start crying, or you sit down in the middle of the aisle and you can't get up, or we go anywhere in public and you're just not the same person, and I realized that, like, we would go out to events and things, and there were so many things that were so many triggers, and I became a violent person. I would have road rage all the time. I would get out of my car and threaten to kick your ass in a heartbeat. And if you threaten to call the police, I said, go ahead, because by the time the police will get here, this situation will be resolved. And I had so many triggers, and I just was not a nice person. And I mean, I would say I was a decent person, but on a lot of aspects, when I had a trigger, I was not a nice person. Otherwise, I was probably a good person, right? But when there was a trigger, and I couldn't understand why I would have these triggers and why I become so violent and why I would have all these outbursts and why I was behaving in the manner that I was behaving. And so when she came to me and she said, I didn't sign up for this, I began to understand at a completely different level what she was talking about, because I saw things from her perspective. And she goes, I want you to retire. I want you to resign, and I want you to focus on your health and well-being. And I said, well, you realize in cybersecurity, if I walk in and resign, they're going to have the security guards come over and walk me right out the door. So, you know, I usually took the bus to work. I said, I'm going to drive that day because I'll be home in like an hour. And that was the case. I went home, went to work. I turned in my resignation. Two big old security guards with guns come over, like, I need your badge. Walk away from your computer. Don't touch anything. And they escorted me out the door, right? And I drove home and I called the VA. And I said, look, guys, I can't work. And there was multiple other issues that was going on with me. And they said, hey, we want to send you out to New Jersey for Gulf War testing, war-related injury center. So I went out there. They did all kinds of crazy tests, all kinds of blood samples. I was out there for an entire week, and they basically said that it's immunizations and exposures in the Gulf War that have caused your issues, was their theory at the time. And they suggested three things: yoga, Tai Chi, and biofeedback. Well, I knew about yoga and I knew about Tai Chi, but I'd never done them. And I didn't even understand what biofeedback was. As soon as I landed back in Kansas City, they had an appointment for me at Leavenworth. And I went out and I started biofeedback. And it was the first time in the history of me walking into a VA hospital, I walked out feeling better than I did. I'll never forget the first time I went in to the VA in Kansas City after I was medically discharged, and I said, I've got all this pain. I can barely walk, I can barely breathe. And the guy takes a stethoscope and puts it on, my legs and my arms. He goes, well, everything sounds fine. It's all in your head. And that's what I heard for years, right? I heard for years that everything is in my head. So finally, my response was is that my conscience? Is that the innocent lives that we took during the Gulf War and that I'm responsible for taking? Is that what's causing the pain? And then, of course, they don't know how to respond to that. Right? They've given this textbook answer of what they think they should say, but when I respond in that manner, they don't know how to respond. And so I said, well, there's something actually to this biofeedback. Like, I feel more relaxed. I felt calm. And it was about focusing on your breath. It was about being as relaxed and calm. And so on that 45-minute hour drive home from Leavenworth to the plaza in Kansas City, I just continued that thought process. And I started breathing really deep and really relaxed. And I went home and I dove into mindfulness and meditation, because Western, philosophy is different than Eastern. Eastern is, let's get in touch with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Western is, we want to analyze it, right? So we test your oxygen, we test your pulse and your heart rate, right? We test all these things because we want the scientific data behind it to make sure that it's proven. Where the Eastern philosophy is like, hey, let's just feel better about what we're doing, really intentfully feel better. And man, I fell in love with mindfulness and meditation. It transformed my life. I started focusing on my breath. I got up every morning and I meditated every morning for a long time. I would say I probably meditated for an hour to 2 hours every single morning. And then I would take my pet bull and we would walk to some local park, and I would take a blanket and I would just lay down and meditate again for like another hour. And then I did it again in the evening. And then I noticed when I had a trigger or an outburst or something happened, it didn't matter where I was at or what I was doing, I would stop and go meditate. If I had to pull myself away and go into the bathroom, or if I'm on the car and I realize, hey, road rage, I'm about to get out of the car and kick this guy's ass, I'm going to pull over and go meditate. And I'm like, this shit works. Unlike anything else I've ever done. I did that for 6 months and I stepped into a yoga studio. And when I walked into that yoga studio, I thought that that was what you were supposed to do. I thought that you were supposed to breathe intentful and you were supposed to focus on your intent and you were supposed to do all these things calm and relaxing. I didn't realize that yoga in America is like this athletic event that we're going to challenge ourselves and push ourselves and be competitive with the person next to us of like, hey, they can do all these crazy handstands and do all this stuff. And that wasn't even me. I'm in the back of the room doing everything wrong, right? I couldn't do one pose right, and the yoga instructor's having to run back there and help adjust me. Like, hey, it was like this one-on-one session, but I felt good because I'd never really put breath and body and mindful and intentful living into movement at once. It transformed my life. And I actually lived on the same street as the yoga studio. So I walked home and I'm like, what did I just experience? Like, what is going on? Like, this is like pivotal. And I always used the analogy that about every 10 years I would take off. And after I was medically retired, we moved back to Oklahoma 20 years ago. And all my friends and relatives were doing golf. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try golf. Who do I reach out to? And they're like, oh, this golf pro in Edmond. So I called the guy, made an appointment. He's like, all right, here's the deal. We videotape you. This is back, 20 years ago. We give you a VHS tape. You get to go home, put it in your VCR, and you'll get to rewatch everything that you've done. And I'll coach you through it. You'll hear my voice. You'll hear your voice. It'll be great. So I sat down with the golf pro, and I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm ready for my first lesson. And he's like, all right, go get your gear. I'm like, I don't have any gear. He starts laughing at me. He's like, ha, 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 go get your gear. I'm like, I don't have any gear. He's like, dude, you're funny. Go get your gear. I'm like, brother, I have no gear. And finally he realized, this guy's serious. I was like, I've played putt-putt before, but I don't have golf shoes. I don't have golf clubs. I have nothing. Nothing at all. I don't know anything about golf. And he's like, you're the smartest student I've ever had. I don't have to retrain you. I get to train you properly on how to golf. And so I played golf. I hated it. Thought it was stupid. It was miserable. It's hot. I mean, it's just, I'm like, man, can I have like an air conditioned golf cart? Like, can I have something else going on? I just enjoyed it at the time. Haven't played golf for years. My brother-in-law in St. Louis had some medical issues. I went out and he had golf balls and, putters and all this stuff in his front yard. And I started hitting these balls and he's like, man, you're great. How often do you play? I said, I haven't touched a golf club in probably 12 years. And he started laughing at me and I had to tell him the story. So I go back to this because when people work with me or connect with me at Warriors of Sin or any type of event, the first thing we think of is our breath. Your breath is the foundation of going forward from this point on. Your breath is what sets up everything in your life, right? Your breath is truly the foundation. So through this journey and this path, what I've realized is that mindfulness and meditation help with the pain. It helps with the trauma. It's really being intentful with your life and having that intention. Like getting up every morning, this is my routine. I get up every morning, slow, deep, methodical breaths. A trauma breath. I inhale for 8 seconds, I pause and hold for 4. I exhale for 8 seconds and I pause and hold for 4. This has come now just complete total routine for me. As I get in a car or I'm doing any type of exercise or any type of modality or cleaning or cooking or whatever it is, slow, deep breaths. I do this each and every morning for 30 minutes before I even get out of bed. Then I do a body scan. I check in with myself, mentally, physically, and spiritually. What is going on with me? What do I need today? Maybe today I need courage or I need forgiveness, right? Maybe I need compassion or peace. That is my intention from what I've developed and derived from my body scan. Now I start to breathe and meditate and focus on that intention. So say today's intention is courage. I'm breathing and manifesting courage, which could be a lot of underlying intents to develop courage. Maybe I need strength or resilience or flexibility to get that courage as well. The next step after that is just building the awareness of your senses, of what you feel externally. So as I'm laying in bed, I think about the temperature of the room. I think about the blankets, the cashmere, whatever's touching my skin. Clothing loose or tight, my hair, where it's at. Like as I get long hair, I don't know if anybody else, like I wake up, a lot of times it's in my mouth. It's really annoying. So I'm pulling it out of my mouth. The senses of feeling externally, but then how I've begun to feel internally from my intention, right? How can I find courage and strength and empowerment? How can I find that in my life? And then what I hear externally, right? Maybe the dogs or the birds. I've got chickens that are the neighbors. I hear the chickens at like 5:30 in the morning. We live right by the lake, and so a lot of times you'll hear the boats coming by the lake. But what do I hear? The various birds and sounds, but the self-dialogue of what I'm telling myself. My mantra, my phrase of myself that I am loved, that I'm cared for, that I am forgiven, that I am more than enough. And then what I see. So thankfully, I live in a beautiful place. I get to see nature. My wife, I wake up to her and the dogs, and I'm just filling my heart full of gratitude and immersion. Now, from that intention, we'll go back to courage. Every interaction is intentional with that. So courage is the foundation for every single interaction, every single conversation I have with myself and others, if that is my intention for that day. And that's what it really means. That really began to transform who I am and what I am. The other aspect of mindfulness and meditation is there's two things, two aspects, two concepts. It's impossible without this. Awareness of all your senses, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and acceptance. To love myself wholly and completely. To become aware of all the thoughts and feelings and emotions I have been avoiding my entire life. All the trauma, all the guilt, all the shame. To finally allow it to rise up and understand what is going on with me mentally, physically, and spiritually. And why am I avoiding? And getting to the why of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. That is one of the most pivotal points in understanding who we are. Because so many times we want to avoid. We want to binge watch Hulu or Netflix. We want to dive into alcohol or drugs or sex or junk food. Right? We're disconnecting from what we really need to connect. The difference between a connection and disconnection is like if I go on a hike and there's all these elements out here of all these birds and insects and snakes and frogs and deer and elk, I can just go on and on. Opportunity to connect. But if I have my cell phone ringing or buzzing, that's disconnecting me from what I need to be. Hulu, Netflix, all those things create that disconnect and that avoidance in our life. And so then I really begin to understand mindfulness and meditation. I begin to establish healthy boundaries because healthy boundaries are everything. You value yourself first. I engage in self-care each and every morning, first thing. I have to take care of myself to be the best version of myself so I can begin to be the best version for everybody else. I have to. I have to value myself enough to begin to heal and recover and repair and understand that if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anybody else. If I truly don't love myself, I can't love each and every single one of you. If I haven't forgiven myself, I can't begin to forgive each and every one of you. If I haven't been able to resolve those issues, I can't give anything I don't possess. We reap what we sow. About this 5 acres of land up here, and I reaped or sowed a lot of stuff, but it was a challenging year because it's my first year, right? But I was able to reap, some corn and some celery and some lettuce and some different things. But I would have never reaped those if I didn't plant it. So the seeds that we plant today, right here in this breath, in this moment, in our belief system, is what we're going to reap in the future. And we have to begin to believe in ourselves. We have to begin to establish hope once again within ourselves and then share that with our community. That we really have hope for ourselves and everybody. Hope for all mankind, that we can really live a life of abundance and love and passion and be intentful with our living. A lot of that goes back to the mission statement. We haven't established a mission statement. When I got out of the military, I felt lost. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what my duties were. This is what my calling was. This was such a great job. I had a top secret SCI level 3 clearance. I tell people I forgot more secrets every day than anybody else will ever know in their life, right? And that's like boosting the ego. I had to release that label. I had to release my attachments to success and my attachments to failures because I was hanging on to that label. And I didn't want to be defined by that label. I wanted to be defined by who I was at that breath in that moment. So there's numerous benefits of yoga. It allows you to really connect. Now, when I say yoga, I don't want people to think it's that 1 hour you spend on the mat. Yoga is a whole holistic way of life. It's being mindful with what you're eating, Glenn, right? You just took a little break to eat, right? Understanding the journey of your food. Where did everything that's on your plate come from? All the seasonings, all the spices. That's the same thing about each and every one of you. Understanding your journey and being empathetic and understanding. Using emotional intelligence on that aspect and that concept of not only how do I make you feel, but how do I make myself feel on this journey and this path. And giving yourself the opportunity to make sure that you're being in touch and in tune with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and becoming aware of why. Why do I feel the way that I feel? Why do I feel joy today, or excitement, or peace, or enlightenment? Or why do I feel sorrow or anger? All the positives, or if you want to label them as positive or negatives, but all those feelings, because they're not truly really positive or negative, they're just feelings. So yoga truly transformed my life on so many aspects because I started sleeping better. I started understanding more. I started diving into the why, and then I started giving back. So for 7 years almost, I've been working with an organization called Warriors Ascent out of Kansas City. And it's a free week-long program for veterans, Department of Corrections, essential personnel. And it really gives them the opportunity to gain their life back. Every single time I do this program, somebody will come up to me and say, you in this program saved my life. Or you in this program, they've got their mother or their father back, their husband or their wife back, their family back. I was going to go commit suicide this weekend if this program didn't work for me. I've got the gun in my car. I was not going to drive back home. I have a plan. Or I was going to drive off the side of the road. I know exactly what bridge I can drive off and kill myself on the way home. Thank you for what you're doing. You have really, truly transformed and saved a life. Now that gives you a purpose, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to engage in the community on that level. And I'm so thankful that I made the decisions in my past to do what I did. I'm so thankful that I listened to my wife 8 years ago and decided to focus on my self-care and my well-being. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the opportunity to connect on the level that I do. And I started a nonprofit about 5 years ago, MyKC, and it's social enrichment. That's all I want to do, is enrich the lives of our community. And how can I do that each and every day? And what does that look like? And each and every day it could be different. It could be just merely having this conversation, or it could be providing yoga mats or a meal or changing somebody's tire or whatever it may be. But being there for our community each and every day. And I realize that I have to take care of myself on a completely, totally different level to take care of our community. I could talk for hours about myself and my journey and my path, but I wanted to give you the high level of what it is. It's really about mindfulness and meditation. The foundation is the breath. It's about being intentional all day, every day. That the intention that you set is the interaction and the conversation that you have with yourself and each and every single person throughout that day. And then it's slow and it's methodical. So is there any questions or anything that anybody wants to discuss?
Hey,
Kerry,
Kerry.
that was awesome. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
No, Sarah, you go. No.
Okay, I'm going to go right back to you, Aaron. Kerry, that was really interesting. I think we all hear a lot about mindfulness and meditation and yoga because it's everywhere, but the way that you broke it down was really interesting. It's so easy to connect to what you shared, very inspiring. I really appreciate you being on. I'm actually going to send this to a few more people who aren't on today. I think they'll get a lot out of it. I want to just circle back. I feel like what you're sharing about the healing is really the main focus, but I'm really curious though, more like about the trauma too. You said that there was 3 things that could have maybe caused your pain and your trauma. That was a little confusing, probably because it's probably not clear. You said immunizations, and then what were the other 2?
Exposure in the Gulf War.
Okay.
So they gave us a lot of immunizations, and then they exposed us to an environment that's very toxic, and that was their belief system in those days. And so I think what we've got to realize is a lot of times we've placed ourselves in toxic environments, mentally, physically, spiritually, maybe financially, sexually, right? Holistically, what we're eating, and that's causing the trauma in our life.
So it's not just a physical, horrible event. It is, yeah, just like what you're saying, it could be just some kind of substance, or even, I mean, you hear about even the anthrax immunization, and I'm sure
Mhm.
so many immunizations. And then, like you said, being in an environment where there's a lot of toxicity. Oh man, that's heartbreaking, honestly, for our knowing that the people that protect us, have gone through that. Um,
Mhm.
I do love though, how you really focused on, how can we turn this around? How can we now find the way to navigate through all that, through the pain, through the post-traumatic stress, all that sort of thing. And it's fascinating to hear your journey. It's fascinating. I'm very inspired personally. And so now that I'm doing my yoga, I'm going to remember all this. And but I love too the points that you said about what to do, like before you even get out of bed, really
Mhm.
connecting with the breath, and then do the body scan, and then the externals. And yeah, fascinating. Thank
Thanks.
you, Kerry.
There's another concept about that is I call it the warrior or the hero. It's taking accountability of where we're at today and not playing the role of victim and victimhood, but really, really getting to the why of why we feel the way we do and how we got here today, and asking myself, who am I? And who do I want to become? So if you see, the label that I've given myself here, I give myself that label as a warrior because I've transformed so much and I use so much of that philosophy each and every day. And I want to be accountable for who I am. And I don't want to blame my situation on anybody else any longer.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you, Kerry. I want to open it up to Janet.
Thanks, Kerry. I came in late, but what I want to say is that your story is somebody else's story. And by you sharing it, and by sharing what you did, because I know for me, it wasn't just one thing that took me to that other side. And the accountability is huge, and the accepting that that was my journey, but now I've got to make a decision. Do I stay there or do I move forward? And by sharing that as well, you're changed. You've already changed lives. If you just said who has said that, but I mean, just even being here and sharing again, there are so many others that need to hear that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate you. You're more than welcome.
That's great. Thank you, Janet. And yeah, Aaron, I apologize. I want to get back to you now.
No, that's okay. And I don't mean to be rude. I can't undo my camera right now because I'm having a little bit of a medical issue. So, hey, Kerry, have you ever heard of SGB, the stellate ganglion block? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have. And
Okay.
actually, they've done some studies on that.
Yep.
And getting Botox actually helps with you to be more calm and more relaxed.
Well, so I'm actually I'm medically retired officer, had a TBI, I've done I've had my fair share of suicide attempts, overtaking medication. I've been through a lot, but
Hmm.
I had SGB done, and it's changed my life so much. I recently was actually given the position to be the U.S. ambassador for first responders for SGB. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to make sure that you're familiar with that, and if not, I would love to connect with you, and just because it's helped me, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that you knew about it. And if you didn't, I wanted to share with you. But it
No,
sounds like you
please.
do.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. So
Okay.
please feel free to reach out. On my nonprofit's website, I have a community page and a lot of its resources. So
What
if
is
you have
it? Yeah, what's your page, bro?
it's I think
I
Marina.
dropped it. Yeah, I dropped it
Oh,
in there. Hold on.
thank you so
I'll
much.
do it again. Hold on one second.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
midtownyogakc.org. But if
Yeah,
you reach out to me,
I'd
then we
love
can
to.
connect. But I love putting those types of resources. The thing is, I watch a lot of and study a lot of clinical trials over mindfulness, meditation, the
Yes, sir.
amygdala, hippocampus, all of that. So I'm aware of it, but
Okay.
it's so challenging sometimes to put all that information out there of like every clinical trial that's
Yep.
proven that mindfulness, meditation,
Oh,
or these other holistic
it, it,
methods.
and
And,
it's a beautiful thing. They've had 83% of
Mhm.
everybody that has taken it that has 100% reset level of PTSD. So I'll reach out to you as a first responder that took it. And
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of stuff myself, like we all have. I'll reach out to you, brother, and I open up my phone number to you or Zoom link or whatever, and I'd love to touch base with you. But yes, sir, I will.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not, I say it's not a one-stop all, right? There's
Correct.
a big piece of pie, right? Warriors Ascent
Yes.
is part of it. All these
Yep.
other organizations are part of the pie. And
Yes, sir.
sometimes you've eaten another nibble of the crust, but you're like, man, I need to eat this whole slice and then I feel okay, but hey,
Right.
let me try this other slice of the
Yes,
pie.
sir.
And that's exactly what it is that's helped
Yes,
me out. And then,
sir.
you know what? 6 months down the road, I'm still hungry. Okay, let me find this other modality or this other one. So, I'll never say that Warriors Ascent or what I do is a one-stop shop. I think it's a
Of course.
lifelong journey, and as
Yes,
we
sir.
grow and change, we need different aspects and concepts in our life at our time. You know.
Man, you're incredible, man. I love your attitude. I love what you're doing. You've inspired me. I'm on a downward spiral, but listening to you today, man. Wow, thank you for being here. It's my honor.
Yeah, and Aaron, I'd love to. I mean, I don't know medically if you're ever able to come out to Kansas City for 5 days. You're more
Yeah,
than welcome to come out, brother.
I would love to. And again, no, I would love to. I'd be honored, but no disrespect. I just have to have my camera off right now because I'm having some issues from yesterday. So that's all. No disrespect.
You're good, brother.
All right, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. Gosh, that would be amazing if you could get out there. Oh, gosh. And you'll have to tell us about it too if you do.
I would
So
love it. Oh my God, I would love it. So thank you so much.
that's so cool. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kerry. And Glenn.
Yeah, I think I'm going to throw Kerry a softball here, but um, can one of
Are
the
you
things that
Nolan
you didn't
Ryan?
mention, what's that?
Are you Nolan Ryan?
No, no. I know we've talked about this before, but can you maybe, the subject is journaling. And I know that this thought of getting in touch with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, defining your mission statement and all that. I'm I'm finding that journaling helps me with that. And you were actually one of the people that turned me on to journaling. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, because I think you're a big advocate of journaling as well, right?
Yeah, Ryan went through Warriors Ascent, and so he knows that every single one of my talks. Yeah, and that's one of the journals I publish. I've got 2 journals I publish now. But every single one of my talks, it's required pretty much for interaction. Uh, hopefully, Daniel just mutes what I have to say real quick. I don't want to give too much away. But journaling is an opportunity for you to be intimate with yourself. A lot of times we can't be vulnerable because of our environment. We don't feel safe. But journaling allows you to really get to who you are, why you exist, what's going on, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now, journaling, there's so many different aspects and concepts because I tell people to write down a to-do list. I encourage people to do a sleep journal that's separate. I have their main journal. So if you look at some of my journals, there may be like yoga sequence that's in my mind. It's like, oh, I want to do this transition here and here. And then the next page will be like a to-do list of things that I need to go buy at the lumber store, right? So I may have like a hodgepodge journal with all these different information. And I wish I had like I have a wallet and it has a journal in it. And we will be on a hike or a walk or a journal. And a journey. I'll be like, stop. And she's like, you got a journal. Something came to your mind, and I have to write it down because if I don't write it down, then I know I forget it. But I have all these different journals for all these different things in my life. And I do have a lot of journals that are just dedicated to yoga. I have a lot of journals. Yeah, I see Janet's down there sharing, Ryan sharing. And so it's important for you to kind of decipher what it is. Journaling allows you to not only be intimate, but to share your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but to write down your dreams, visions, and goals, and to get in touch with who you are. The other thing is I look back. I think I did a video a couple of weeks ago, and I actually pulled out my journal from like 2 years ago during COVID, and I was asking myself, all these in-depth questions of what's going on and why we are where we're at today. And so it allows you an opportunity to reflect and look back at who you are and who you are today and who you were and how you've transformed. But find that opportunity to journal each and every day. Now, your mind never shuts down. So when you begin to journal, it gives it the opportunity to refresh and heal. So that's why I always encourage doing it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. What do you want to accomplish tomorrow? What are your dreams, visions, and goals? What are your to-do list? What are your thoughts, feelings, and emotions? So the journal that Ryan has is AM and PM, also gratitude. So in the evening, it encourages you to write down the unforeseen circumstances of gratitude that you didn't even realize occurred today. 5 things that happen that find gratitude? And what does your self-care regimen look like? So the journal that Ryan has is a really good starting point for 30 days of journaling, or I guess 15 in AM and PM. You can get on this method of, what do I need to do for myself? What does my self-care regimen look like? What is some gratitude today? What are my goals, dreams, or visions? My thoughts, feelings, and emotions? AM and PM. I just kept it so simple to get people to start thinking about those aspects and concepts. But it is vital to journal and write it down. Now you can do digital. I share more with those people in Warriors Ascent, but you can do it digitally. You can do it on paper. You can have multiple versions. You have to do what serves you because you're hanging on to it. You've got to get that out. You've got to release it. And journaling is one of the easiest ways to do it. Is that helpful, Glenn?
That's a great subject.
All right, yes.
Oh, sorry, Glenn.
No, I just said yes, thank you. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. And Lewis, I'll get right back to you. Janet, can you share really quickly what you're going to be starting next week, because we're on that subject?
Yeah, so I did a session on a Friday in July on journaling. Did a 90-minute session, and it's recorded, Glenn, if you're interested in seeing it. But from that has come, I'm starting to facilitate on Wednesday the 5th, and we're going to go through The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Kerry, are you familiar with her?
I've heard of her, but I haven't studied her or researched her. But I'm
Yes.
familiar of her, but just not in depth.
Yeah, so I've written about journaling in a chapter in 2011, and that created full day workshops, and then I've done some smaller ones. And but hers is one of the books I always refer to, and one of the parties in the group had the book, so there was some interest. So it's a guided one. She's got 12 sessions, and but it's all growing, and that gives people a taste of where to go. But like you say, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. And journaling is more than just writing. One of the things that I do is a release letter. We can call it a forgiveness letter. Last night we talked about gratitude letters, and all of this is involved. But there's so much. Our brains are so unique. You can write a question with your dominant hand and write the answer with your non-dominant hand, and you'd be surprised at what the answer would be. So it's a whole new package. But if anybody's interested on Wednesday, we're doing it at 1:00. I know there are some people that can't do it at that time. So I'm sure everybody, because I'm keeping it to first responders, mostly from referral here, or if we know somebody and can invite, but it'll be recorded, and then we can send it out to those who couldn't meet during the day, and then I'll be available to any of them.
Yeah.
So and if anybody is interested, it's going to be on our weekly email schedule with the Zoom links. So if you're not on my email list and you want to be, just DM me or let me know. Janet, you said first responders. Did you mean first responders and veterans?
Like the power of like the power of our story. Anybody that's involved here. I could say first responders because I think veterans and all of us were first responders before we retired, and that. So nurses are first responders, especially anybody that's on that front line dealing with trauma and stuff like that.
Yes, thank you.
So that's what I meant.
I'm with you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
We have these videos on the YouTube channel too. So Janet did a great job. She really inspired me to journal too. So a lot of my mom's journaling now because of this video too. So it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Janet. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Janet, for sharing.
Yeah.
Glenn, did you have anything else you wanted to share or ask or?
Yeah, I was just wondering if Janet, when you first started talking, you mentioned a video that had been recorded that I guess was posted last week, and I was just wondering if you could just say what that is again, or provide a link maybe in the chat.
Yeah, it was in July. So,
oh, July.
Yeah, so I'll just see if I can find it, and then I can post it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It sounds really interesting. I wanted to follow up, so thank you.
Okay, Lewis, thanks for being patient.
Yeah, of course. So Kerry, man, like I've gotten bits and pieces of your story here and there, man. But I gotta say, dude, like the first time that I met you on Angels 14, you know, you came in with your long hair and you had like the chakra poster behind you, and I was like, and this was in the very, yeah, I do that one. This was in the very, very beginning of me like practicing mindfulness and getting into that realm. And I was like, man, this guy is like, I don't know, you know. Oh, you also shared that you went to like India and you studied like and stuff like that. I was like, this guy is like the real deal, and I was so impressed. But now I'm even more impressed because I heard you say today that you you know threatened to beat people up on the side of the road. So I was like, all right, now I can connect with this guy a little bit more, right? um, but man, dude, I think it's so great, and I appreciate you sharing your story. And I have a question for you when it
Yeah.
comes to meditation. I find myself when I'm in two circumstances or more than two circumstances, I've been practicing after a body scan, feeling that I needed peace. So I would meditate on peace, and for some reason, I can get through a meditation session if asking for strength and going through all that. But when it comes to peace, my mind it just like races and races and races, and it always, without fail, takes me back to like being in Afghanistan,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I can't find peace there. So I just go and my brain just goes. I'll get to the end of my 20-30 minute session. It's like, okay, I don't feel like any better. So a question for you is, what are some tips, man? Like how can I find peace, dude? Like
Yeah.
I want it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I need
So I will say this, when I started teaching yoga at a studio, it was a corporate yoga studio. That's where I did my teacher training. And they give you like this feedback that's
okay.
required. And they were like, I forgot what it was. It was like just ridiculous to me. Like the room temperature was 1 degree too hot. And I did one pose I shouldn't have done. And I said something, da 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 da. And I said, is this really feedback? And then the next day, the manager pulls me inside. She goes, Kerry, you lost your temper yesterday. And I said, what? She goes, yeah, you lost your temper against so and so, whatever her name was. No, I didn't lose my temper. She goes, yeah, you did. And I said, was anything broken and is anybody bleeding? If nothing is broken and nobody is bleeding, I didn't lose my temper. She didn't know how to respond. So, in regards to that, I think with peace, you've got to find some of the underlining other intents. I think for you, it's reframing the perspective. It's finding gratitude, and one thing that I encourage people is to write letters of intention to those people they love, those that have loved them, those people they have hurt, and the people that have hurt them. This has been one of the most helpful healing aspects of the journaling. Do I need to repeat that for you?
Yeah, please. I was giving my daughter some Cheerios.
Intention letters to those that you love, those that love you, those you have hurt, and those that have hurt you. And do this all in positive regard. So there's some underlining, I would say, intentions that's going to have to get you to peace. And you're going to have to just analyze within your own life. But I'm going to guess a lot of it's guilt, shame, and forgiveness. You still have a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of forgiveness. Remember, the concept to be mindful is acceptance and awareness. So you're going to have to ask yourself, how can I accept who I am today? And from that, then you're going to be able to begin to dive into what peace looks like for you. But maybe it's a relocation. Maybe it's something drastic. Maybe you're going to have to get up and move out or take more holidays or more vacations or spend more time in nature or camping or hiking. Maybe your environment isn't giving you the opportunity to reset and be at peace. There's so many other aspects in there. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe it's too much sugar in your diet. The list can go on and on and on, but you've got to get to the why. When was the last time you felt at peace? Now, I'm not asking you to answer, but when was the last time and why did you feel at peace at that time? When was the last time you felt at hope? And why was that? You know? So that's going to be my suggestion, is starting letting go of the past in different levels and different layers. But those letters of intention in a positive regard, I think is going to be one of the biggest keys for you. And then just diving into, how can I find acceptance? And maybe for you, it's 6 intentions for you to find peace today, right? And that's okay. Don't disregard that of like, man, these are the things I've got to focus on today: acceptance, forgiveness, guilt, shame. A lot of that we didn't talk about today is vulnerability. Where can you really feel raw, authentic, real, and genuine? Where can you go that you're not holding anything back, but you can just be yourself and authentic and real, right? And you're not having to not have any barriers, any borders, like, man, this is the real true me, authentically me. Then I think if you begin to find that space, you're going to find peace. Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, it does. It
Okay.
does. Thank
I
you.
mean, and I know I've said some things, but it's got to be a shift.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was getting out of the city and getting into Colorado and now into Oklahoma. Man, I've got more peace than I have more clarity right now at 53 than I've ever had in my entire life. I am so proud of who I've become on this journey and this path. I have no regrets of all the things that have occurred over the last few years. But I've had to make some changes, and people think I'm crazy. I lived in a van for 6 months. I sold my house and almost everything in it, except for that and this beautiful table we've got right here, some tools, and some family heirlooms. All that stuff was in storage. Everything we owned fit in one of those like 6x6 containers, including this artwork. But it gave me the opportunity to reset and heal and recover. We lived in a van with 2 dogs, not down by the river. So, you're going to have to analyze in your life what measures, and sometimes it's drastic. You don't have to have a conventional life to be happy. You can't see, your future connections. You never know. So don't be afraid to make that space for you to where you can be vulnerable. But I think once you find that space and you incorporate all those other aspects and concepts, you're going to find peace. But be patient with yourself.
Sure.
Really be patient with yourself. It takes time for you to heal and recover and focus on yourself. So
Thank you for that. And just like you mentioned earlier, there's different pieces to the pie, and I'm definitely trying each flavor, and I'll come back to the meditation aspect when I need that more. And
Yeah.
I know it's daily for me, so I really appreciate you sharing that. And I gotta do some digger deep in, find some deeper answers.
Yeah. And
Thanks, man.
I'm here for you, brother.
I know. Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Now, Kerry, I'm really proud of you too. That's a huge shift that you've been patient with yourself to navigate through, to discover, to get to the place where you're at. And you're again articulating it so beautifully and so well for others to get help navigating this journey too. So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Daniel.
Hello, everyone. Outstanding. Thanks for sharing, Kerry. Met Kerry on Angels 14 with a couple other people on here. Haven't been on there in a while. But since meeting and since being in this tribe here, the Power of Our Story, I've reached out and I sought support from a mental health provider, and I will be in attendance at Warriors Ascent class 56 here next month.
So awesome. I'm so glad to spend that week with you, brother.
Yep. Yeah. So
I'll say
it's
this
been a
upfront.
long journey,
Yeah, thank you for trusting me.
Absolutely. And I get Kerry's daily messages from his My KC. Sometimes I respond, sometimes I don't. But it does start my day because I think I get him like at 5 a.m. here.
Yeah, it's early for you.
Yeah. So it's great stuff. Looking forward to the week out there in Missouri and just looking to continue my journey. And, obviously being involved in this tribe and the Angels 14 tribe has definitely helped me in my delayed response to things that, I've seen and lived and things like that. So I really appreciate everybody on this call. And again, I'm looking forward to that week in next month.
Yeah, me too, brother. It's going to be a big group. It's going to be the largest group we've ever had, but we're in a mental health crisis. And, I've talked to the board and everything. I said, well, if we get 20 people that need to go, we need to do it. We need to just make it work for those people, but it will be the largest cohort we have ever done. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to connect with that many people at once.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
And thanks for committing, brother. And thanks for the courage. I know Ryan's gone through and got to spend a week with him earlier this year, Ryan? They all kind of run together.
Yeah,
Okay.
early this year.
Yeah. It's challenging for me because we're at 54 cohorts, hundreds of people, I guess thousands at this point, maybe hundreds, and then all the lives that they've impacted and the connections. And so, it's a challenge for me to always remember the time frame of when people went through it. So
Yeah. Wow.
but thanks for the courage for you guys signing up and committing to coming out.
Thanks.
I can't wait to
And-
hear about it, Daniel. Yeah, you can share with it on our groups too, how that goes. Ryan,
Absolutely.
were you saying something?
No, I was just gonna say I'm hoping it works out, but I'm hoping to be a mentor there this next month. So I should be able to swing my RV
Really?
that way.
Like for the whole week or just like for a few days?
I don't know. Probably hopefully a week, but if not, a couple days.
See, Dan, you'll get to meet Ryan in person.
Yeah.
Always fun. Well, Kerry, tell us about this week. What is it like? What does it look like?
Mhm. So there's got to be some mystery
Okay.
left because Dan hasn't, but I'll give you the highlight, right?
Okay.
So it's about taking control and taking charge of your life and being accountable for who you are, of your own health and well-being. We really give people the tools to walk away from it. So, nothing against equine or nothing against all those other aspects, but I can't give you a pony to take home and raise and for you to do the equine, but I can give you a journal. I can give you yoga mats and blocks and props. I can give you the foundation in mindfulness and meditation that you can do this anywhere. And Ryan knows that the poses and the sequences and anything, you can do it in your living room, you can do it in your kitchen, you can do it, it doesn't matter, anywhere you're at. You can do breath work in the bathroom or in your car, but it's a lot of journaling, it's a lot of understanding and getting to the why, and it's a lot of in-depth questions. I'll give you a couple of examples. So I'll ask during one of them, like, what are your dreams, visions, and goals? And we go around, they journal it, and we ask. The next slide is, what are your excuses? Why are you not accomplishing your dreams, visions, and goals? Right? So it's introspective questions that I do the whole entire week. Like, I talk about healthy boundaries. What does that really mean personally and professionally? Most of the DOC people that come in end up resigning after they go through because they realize the lack of control that they have over healthy boundaries and how toxic the environment is. So Dan, not to say that you're going to be one of those statistics, but they realize how toxic it is, and so they end up resigning. A lot of people end up doing it. They walk into work on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the following week, and they're like, I can't do this anymore. I realized like how wonderful life was. I realized this last week who I am and what I need to heal and recover, and it's not work. And I hope, I'm not encouraging people to quit all their prescription medications and to resign from their job, but I am encouraging them to empower themselves. So there's a lot of rituals to it, a lot of ceremonial aspects I won't share just because Daniel hasn't been through the program, that I want the element of surprise. It's long days. I start yoga at 7:30 in the morning. I do my talks in the evening. The men are more emotional and talk a lot more than the women. And so our evenings usually end around 10 or later. This is the first time that men have been vulnerable and they feel safe. That's why they're going to share, because they didn't understand the concept of intimacy and vulnerability. They didn't understand yoga. I'll get guys in the first day, big old bodybuilder guys, they'll tell me they're not fucking doing yoga. They don't care who I am. And then by Wednesday night, they're like, hey, Kerry, when are we doing yoga? Because their interpretation of yoga isn't what yoga really is and what should be in America, right? We have all these false identities and all these advertisement. So it's really a week to focus on yourself and self-care and to dive into the why of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and to become the best version of yourself. That's the overall. Dan can tell you more in November.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Sounds fascinating. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Marina, I know you had your hand up once. Don't be shy.
You know, I was talking about, I was gonna say something about the dumpster, about the clutter, because I feel like the clutter that's in my mind is reflected. Like I look at Louie's room and it's just so pleasant, and your room, unless that's a fake background, but I don't
No,
think
that's
it
real.
is.
I gotta-
Exactly. Like there, and even like, and Sarah, like I'm looking around and everything is so like just peaceful. And then you
that's
look at
where I'm
mine and it's like,
Wh-
look at all the crap, you
Let me-
know? I mean, it's, and if you could see the rest of the office that you're not seeing, no, there's like, it's just like, there's so much going on in here that I just never let myself, I don't know, like I don't process it or I just don't experience it. I'm not sure. And then
Let me
I'm
talk about that for a second. Dan, I'm going to spoil alert, but I feel it's relevant. You're fine. We lived in a van. We sold our house. We sold everything. My wife was traveling, right? She does clinical research, monitoring. She's now a manager. And she's like, I'm going to Chicago for the week. Everything you own has to go in 6 of these containers. I said, what? Everything you own has to go in 6 of these containers. What? I didn't hear you. Everything you own has to go in 6 of these containers. I said, what have I done? She said, this was your idea. You wanted to sell everything and live in a van. There's only so much space you have in your life. Everything you own has to go in 6 containers. You get 6 containers, I get 6 containers. So these containers are still my life. My toiletries are, and her toiletries are in one of these containers in the bathroom. I wear a t-shirt, I'm an 80s boy, right? So I gotta have the collared shirt, the t-shirt, and the shorts. I can put 7 of those outfits in one of these. I had one for electronics, one for journaling, coloring books, pencils, things like that. And then I had 2 weeks of clothes in one of those, and then I had winter clothes. Now I want you to use this as a symbolism. What in your life is very valuable and very important? What in your life gives you purpose? What really validates who you are? What is part of your mission statement? Everything else you just get rid of. You get rid of all the clutter and all the toxic. Once you only have 6 of these in your life that give you purpose, everything else begins to fall off. Now, when you do that physically, when you go around your space and you spend 15 to 30 minutes in each room every single day, getting rid of all the clutter, all the things that no longer serve you, you start doing that on other aspects, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, psychologically, healthy. It's easier to transition when you start doing it physically, though, because then you're like, this person is toxic. When I get off the phone with them, I'm always annoyed or I'm frustrated and I feel like they've taken all the energy and I'm just exhausted. How do I establish healthy boundaries with them? So I want you to begin to think about that concept in your life. What really validates who you are in your purpose and provides content that's valuable to your mission statement and intentful living? And get rid of everything else that no longer serves you. All of it. And it's freeing and it's liberating. And so when we load up, there's only a couple of things that are valuable. Over there, you can't see it, but I've got a flag when I was medically discharged that flew over the Capitol. So they get a new flag every day. And I was privileged enough to have one that flew over the US Capitol. And I have a certificate. So if I had to be out of this house in 15 minutes, my wife and I would grab our containers, our toiletries, right? Probably grab some other materialistic items, but I could be literally out of this house within 15 minutes of everything that's valuable to me. Is that helpful at all?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I, I- it makes me want to just like, it makes me realize that the house I live in is just like, it's too big. You know what I mean? Like I have too much crap.
Yeah, well,
And
and I'll tell you the
and
thing is,
here, oh,
think about some of the stuff in your life that could be a blessing to somebody else if you donate it or give it away or sell it,
Yeah.
right? You're holding back a
absolutely.
blessing for somebody else because you're hanging on to this materialistic item that doesn't really fulfill you. You're filling it up over and over and over, over and over. You're going to go buy this more stuff, filling it up. It's not filling the hole. It's not filling the void.
It's not. And I donate, and it's funny because like you donate and then you go out and you buy more. And it's like it's a vicious cycle, right? It's so, I don't want to say
You
it's
only have
stupid,
6
but it,
containers.
yeah.
When we were traveling from here to Canada, right? So in my books, in my journal, I only had enough space. So if I was at a thrift store and I found a book I wanted, I had to donate a book to fill in the space. I only have outfits for 14 days, 7 in each. If I wanted a new pair of shorts or shirt, I had to donate an item before I could do it. Make the discipline to do that in your own life on all levels. Mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, holistically, what you're eating, the journey of your food, all of it, financially.
That's powerful.
I
And
think I need to sign up.
You're going to spend a week with me too? All right.
Carrie,
Thank
I've
you.
started that process actually. It's interesting that we're talking about this. I've waged war on all this, and I do feel, even though I'm not where I'm going to be, I already feel an empowerment of focus on what's most important. So I'm already seeing what's happening. So I'm glad that we
You
brought
really
this up,
can't.
Marina.
Yeah, you can't focus in clutter. I tell people this, Marina, I'll use this as an example. You want your life as a temple. Now, I do have some stuff right here next to me, but if I took you into the kitchen, people say it looks like a store because everything's completely organized in containers and organized. And our fridge is that. Everything is in containers and everything in your life is organized. When you get it that way, you begin to focus a lot more. You begin to feel more calm and relaxed. Make your house a temple. Start with one room. Start with a room that you can dedicate to your self-care. Clean that room, organize it, just like you go into a temple. Have you ever been to a temple and there's just shit everywhere? No, because you can't think, you couldn't process, you couldn't meditate, you couldn't be in prayer, you couldn't do all those things. So just find one room, start with that one room, and then work into the others. And then all you've got to do is focus 15 to 30 minutes in each room every day just to reorganize and re-clean. I mean, I used to be crazy about it with my garage. I'd go around with a shop vac and dust the trim on the shop vac floor, in the garage. Like everything was immaculate. But I mean, that took me 30 minutes, 15 minutes to clean every day. And the garage is one of my rooms. Your car is the same way. Once a week, just go through your car and clean and organize.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, though.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I'm probably every American needs to hear this and be reminded and be inspired to do this, right? I mean, I think a lot of us have more than we want or need. Ryan.
Yeah, I was just gonna respond to what Marina has been saying, or anybody else saying about the space wise in our house. But so for me, I went from, was a 1,500 square foot house to a 42-foot RV, and we pretty much get rid of all our furniture, most things that we own, and the only stuff that we have now are, exist in our RV. Thankfully, we've got an RV that's a little bit bigger. We have a little bit more storage, but we're even thinking of condensing that down again. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, so when we were in our house and we're realizing that, we needed to transition to the RV, we started thinking about the space that we only occupy in our house. And we found out that the only places that we really occupied was our living room, where our TV was, and our kitchen. And then my office. But then eventually we condensed that office down into where I was actually in the living room. So I guess for Marina, what I suggest you do is look at the areas of your house that you're most using, right? And then you definitely pare down everything else and then work on, the spaces that you're into.
I think with Ryan too, I encouraged him, like, instead of having like multiple jackets, have one jacket with liners, and then like two pairs of gloves or a glove with liners. So you're condensing and utilizing, just like in the military, right? We had the fleece,
Yeah.
we've got the Gore-Tex, and then you can have these liners and gloves. It's the same kind of concept. Instead of having multiple items that serve a purpose, have one item that serves the purpose. And it's a very high quality product. It's more purposeful. That was another, and like your pens, instead of having 20 pens, you have 2 pens, but maybe you have a variety of different other things in your life that you have to make space for. It's a set of priorities.
Priorities. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. Oh, really good stuff, Kerry. Thank you. This is
Thanks. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? I know Louis had his hand up for a minute, or
Yeah, I lost my train of thought, so I just remembered again though. So when you're talking about like the Western way of yoga, right? How it's like commercialized way too much. What are some resources? What are some resources where we can actually find the right kind of yoga?
well, that's going to be a challenge for you. I mean, I think if you want to reach out to me directly, I can kind of help. The challenge is there are some really good yoga studios east and west coast.
Okay.
Right, there's some in Huntington Beach, Manhattan Beach. There's a lady there in Long Beach that does it, that I spent a month with in India. I think it's doing your due diligence, because it's not about the ego. I learned a valuable lesson in doing the Wanderlust tour. And I don't know if familiar with that, but Wanderlust is the yoga event that they do all over the whole world. And we followed that. And what I realized is that, a lot of these celebrity yogis are a disease. They do not live the life that they preach. And seeing behind the scenes of these people, it really turned me off onto that level of yoga, because the way they treat their spouse, or the way they treat the staff, or how they treat other people is not how they truly preach. Not to say that we're not all human and we fall, but when you are in Kansas City and Colorado and California and up in all these different states, Canada, and you see the same behavior emulate time after time after time after time, I begin to realize that celebrity yogis truly can be the disease. So for you, I think it's finding that person that lives what they believe in, right? That person that really practices what they preach, and that it's not just word vomit, or they're regurgitating something that they've heard before, but they're actually analyzing it for themselves. They can think for themselves.
Yeah.
So what happens is, a lot of times somebody's new to yoga and they just heard somebody say something and they're just going to regurgitate it because it's easy, it's simple. I'm just going to say this, but is there really a philosophy? Is there really kind of proof behind that? What does all that mean? So finding that within your community is the challenge, because we have become so commercialized on all levels and all aspects of our life. They're selling you something, but you've got to find out what's the intent behind them selling you those items.
Yeah.
All of it, everything in your life you look at, there's an intent behind why they're pushing their agenda, politically, professionally, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's something you see on TV, right? Whether it's social media, of what they're filtering and not filtering, but what is their true intent? So I think finding a person that really just loves the community and is willing to give back to the community and really is passionate about it at their core values and their element is going to be one of the key aspects and concepts. And that they tell you that it's not just about what you do on the mat, but it's about eating right and exercising and giving back to the community and all those things. That's the way of yoga. Yoga is a whole holistic lifestyle. Yoga does two things for us each and every day. It lets us know the things in our life that we're doing well, but it also lets us know those things in our life that we need to work on. That's what yoga is.
Oh man, that's super helpful. Seriously.
Ryan, did you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody said something. Did you have
No,
another?
I had my hand up and I lowered it. I just forgot to put it down.
Okay.
Bye, Marina.
Bye,
Take care.
Marina.
Daniel, do you have anything you want to share or say? Are you even able to? I know you're in uniform, but
Didn't know you were talking to me. There's two Daniels.
the other one's not in uniform.
Well, I knew that, but at first you said Daniel had anything to say. I'm like, all right. I agree with most of you say. I don't do it from a yoga perspective. I do it from a Christian perspective, and I've purged my life of many different things, and I've taken a mental, emotional, social, spiritual, sexual inventory on what junk that was brought in my life and asking the Lord to purge that stuff and bring in truth. So mostly what you say, I agree with. I don't keep a bunch of stuff. I love purging. I love it. If I wasn't like a hoarding expert, I would be, because I would love to go in people's houses and be like, we're just getting rid of this. Woo! And I feel free and they're pissed and they're all emotional and crying and wanting to kill me, but I would be excited.
I have a lot of respect for you because I say there's thriving and there's surviving. A lot of times we just survive, right? We face our trauma and then we thrive. But to you, a lot of people will use prayer as an excuse. You've taken it as action, right? So you've taken the action to not only pray about it, but how can I implement this in my life? And I have so much respect because there's so many people that just pray and like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I just prayed about it. I'm gonna leave it up to God. You're like, God guided me in this direction, in this path, and I'm gonna take action. So I have so much respect for you for taking the action on your prayers, brother. Thank you so much.
That's what we need to do. I mean, that's something is that particular guard. That's the reason why we think Christians are hypocritical. They either take way too much action and don't talk to God, or they go over and just keep it in prayer and they treat it like the mystical stuff and everything else. And then it's ethereal and vague. I'm like, why don't they just throw out tea leaves out and just go over and see what happens? I mean, there's a balance in there. God gives words sometimes and doesn't give any other instruction for years. And you need to just follow that last known instruction in that and walk that out, compared to just saying, he didn't say anything, I'm not going to do anything. I'm like, well, that's apathy, so it's I don't think it's always easy, but I've done it so much it's more like a muscle movement. So my wife is way more in tune and gets more words of affirmation from God than I do, but the last order I had is teach the world better relationships. That's what I've been going on since like 2007. So I'm like, I don't get like a download every day. So I just go with that and continue with that.
Well, you gotta realize that we're never on the same level mentally, physically, and spiritually with our spouse. Physically, you may be a lot stronger, but spiritually, she may be a lot stronger. You guys may be in line mentally, but that's part of being acceptance and understanding and seeking knowledge and wisdom from your significant other. So many times I think people have false expectations of themselves and others, and so you've established realistic expectations of what you're capable of doing in those times, and the same thing probably with your significant other.
Yeah, that's like me trying to force her to one-hand clap. I'm the only one that does one-hand clapping. Yep, she can't do it, so we just need expectation. I can do it, she can't, and be thankful that you can. And if you can't, then hey, it's not to be glorifying it. Be like, oh, I can't do this, because the things that we can do are for certain people, and the things they can do are for certain people.
Yeah, I agree.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate it. Really appreciate all the good comments too. It's a great conversation. Kerry, do you want to leave us with anything? I mean, it was such a rich conversation, but if there's anything that you want to end out with, for us to walk away with.
I mean, I want you to find a space where you feel loved and accepted for who you are. I want you to be able to find hope for yourself and all mankind, in a place that you can really be vulnerable, that you can be raw, authentic, real, and genuine. And if there's anything I can do for anybody here or in the future, feel free to reach out to me anytime, because my mission statement for my nonprofit is social enrichment, and I really want people to be the best version of themselves. And if there's anything that I can do to help facilitate that at any level, I would love an opportunity to connect. So
it's wonderful.
yeah, thank
Kerry,
you so much. Yeah, thank you for allowing me the platform to share my story.
And I am really grateful too. I think the power of our story really is a place that we try to create safety for that exact reason, to have people to feel safe, to connect with others, what they need, and then to have people like you who have really navigated out of a hard place into such an enriched place. So, Kerry, thank you. Really appreciate
welcome.
connecting with you and
Yeah,
your
thank you.
story. So thank you. We can